And so let's just get right into this first one here. So what makes a high converting real estate investor website? And first, if you don't know what converting means or a conversion, so a website conversion is basically when somebody visits your site and either submits the form on the site or gives you a phone call. So basically you converted that traffic into a lead. So if people come in your site, they don't do anything, they're not really a lead, it's not a conversion. So if you have 10 visitors view your page and one submits the form, that's a 10% conversion rate for the time period that you're looking at. And so that's pretty good for a website too, by the way, because not everybody's going to submit the form and call you. And an explanation of why that's usually the case is that they may just be curious about your services. They could have, searched for a term that you ranked for that maybe your site wasn't really about. And they may be other investors just checking out the competition. This happens a lot. You get a lot of traffic from other investors looking at what's out there. You may have found somebody that was skeptical of your website and so they didn't fill out the form or call you. And this is very real. You don't want to think that kind of thing happens, but a lot of people are skeptical. Another reason why they don't maybe fill out the form or call you is that they don't have strong enough motivation to take action yet. They're kind of nervous. They're kind of embarrassed by their situation. A lot of people with these problems where they want to sell their house quickly, they're pretty embarrassed by it. So the house is a wreck. They're thinking, okay, this guy's going to need to come to my house, and he's going to see the state it's in, how trashed it is, and so they're not ready yet, basically. So let's consider those last two, because I think those are perfect ones. You need to have those people convert because they're motivated sellers, and you want to have them convert. So let's discuss those last two items in more detail. So it's people that are skeptical and people that are anxious. All right. So one group isn't sure about how legit you are, and the other group's not feeling comfortable enough to reach out to you. And how do you design your website to address those issues? And please understand that these are very common issues for motivated sellers looking for a way out of their situation. And it's not just like the outliers. These are a bulk of people. So the way that you get the BS meter for people to ease up and become more comfortable and open to contacting you is to provide credibility. And, some people teaching about this kind of thing would say, provide credibility and then move on. But I've got a whole list here. So, lucky us. You can exude credibility by doing several things. First and foremost, you need to have testimonials on your website. People want to see that other people have used your service and are happy with how it went. So if you don't have sellers yet that you can ask for testimonials from, ask your friends. Ask family, ask colleagues. They don't have to lie and act as though you bought their house. Don't do that. They can just vouch for your integrity, what type of person you are, and all that kind of stuff. That works just as well because really people want to know who's behind it and what other people think about them. And, and one note too, because I see a lot of people doing testimonials and then they put like the first name and just the initial of the last name. And I don't know about you, but when I see a testimonial by John W., I doubt the legitimacy of it. It's just something, and I think maybe a lot of people, I don't know if you feel that way as well or not, but, and then video testimonials are the best. If you can get video testimonials, it's something you should strive for, something you should work at doing. It's really hard to doubt those. When you see a video testimonial, you have somebody sitting there telling you that about the service and how everything went. And obviously the best time to get those is right after closing. So right after you bought the house, you did what you said you were going to do, is the time that people are going to share their honest opinion and they're the happiest. So that's the time to do that. The second thing to do to help combat, to provide credibility to combat, people that are skeptical or anxious is to have a professionally designed website. This is huge. You need a site that looks and works great and it's easy to navigate. I'm sure you've been to a site that's looked like it was built in the 90s. I find them all the time. It's crazy. You want a clean, uncluttered website that shows that you're professional. And think about it. You're telling people you pay cash for their house, and you've got to have a website that looks like it costs a lot of money to build. You don't want to have something that looks like it was thrown up or it's on some kind of free service that has their domain on it, and you as just like a side part of the whole thing. So I've heard people talk about how pretty websites don't convert as well. And that's just complete baloney. I don't know what that's all about. There's so many factors that go into conversions that an easy excuse for low conversions is that the site was pretty. It's crazy. What usually is going on is the people offering the websites that don't have the technical ability to allow their customers to have custom looking sites. So what they do is they spin the problem to make it seem like it's not a problem but a benefit. So beware. The myth that pretty sites have low conversion rates is complete garbage, and we have years of data to prove it. So don't listen to that. If you buy into that and you're given a site that you don't feel is completely professional or clean looking the way you want it, don't buy into this thing that they're trying to sell you that it's not going to convert as well. If it's not, that's garbage. And a simple test is really, ask yourself, which site do you feel more comfortable submitting your information to? A nice looking site or a site that looks like it was thrown together in a couple minutes? I mean, honestly, always consider things from the perspective of potential motivated sellers as well. You've got to put yourself in the shoes of the person that's searching online for you and find your websites. Always do it that way, because we sort of have the curse of knowledge sometimes with our own sites, and we come into it just from our point of view, knowing all the things that we know. And you have to come into it from, maybe like a beginner's mind that's not cluttered with all that information. So, you look at your site with the point of view of, if you don't know what it's all about, you're trying to figure out who's behind it, what it's about, how it works, and make sure all those things are addressed in your website. All right, so those are the first two. The next one would be to make your site personable. Let them know who you are, why you do what you do, and how you got into the business, and how you want to help them. And pictures that don't seem like cheesy stock photos work the best. I mean, don't ever put these corporate looking cheesy stock photos on your website. It looks horrible, and it makes it corporate and seem canned. About Us page is crucial. That's where you can tell your unique story and let people know. And people really do care about those things. I think it builds rapport for you tremendously to have those things. So don't ignore it and make a vague, generic looking corporate website. You should also include a little blurb about you on the homepage as well. So if you've got a spot there, a section where you can put that about yourself and on some of the other pages, so that no matter which page they land on your website, they kind of get a little info about you, the person behind it. And so this next one actually goes into that as well. It's talking about making the contact info easy to find on your website. So I don't know if you've ever gone to a website where you were kind of like looking at it and there's just a form, there's no address anywhere, there's no name of somebody, there's no phone number. And to me, I get really skeptical about those kind of things, because I feel like anybody can do that. Like any even 15-year-old can put up a website and put up a form, and have that kind of stuff, and you don't really know who's behind it, if they're legit or not. So this goes a long way. So when people have no other option aside from filling in a form to get in touch with you on your website and can't find a name or anything about who's behind the site, they also become very skeptical. So make sure you got your phone number and contact info and address on your website. Okay, the next thing that you can do to help build that credibility is establish yourself as an expert. And I know when people hear this sometimes, immediately they're thinking, man, that sounds like a lot of work. Like, how am I going to convince somebody I'm an expert? And maybe you're a new investor and that's like something that you're even kind of concerned about. But don't be. You should have content on your website that shows what you're talking about. And obviously, knowing what you're talking about is huge, because you're talking about buying people's houses, and it's a pretty big deal. So, one way that we do help with our system with Lead Propeller, the sites come with default content that's already written for you and works masterfully at presenting you as an expert. And you should be blogging to do this. So you have a website that's got content, but you want to keep that content going. You want to build on it, cover different aspects. You can cover a lot of this, how to sell a house fast and things like that, and how you work, and we buy houses and stuff like that. But what you want to do is build over time, is build into some of these other aspects, basically going into all the different situations people face. So you can have some articles about inheriting houses and maybe taxes that have to be paid. People have those questions. They inherited a house, they're not sure what to do with it. Should they rent it? Should they sell it? You can have articles about those decisions and the benefits of doing either. And then that way, if they feel like it was a good benefit to go ahead and sell it, then they learn from you and they feel like you're an expert and contact you about getting an offer. So it's pretty cool. We covered the topic. We're going to cover this topic, though, about blogging and content marketing is basically what it is, in another podcast episode and on the webinar, because there's so much involved. If I just do it all right here, we're going to be eating up a ton of time. So I'm going to devote a whole podcast episode to the SEO, search engine optimization, and content marketing, because they kind of go hand in hand. All right, so a side note about that too is that Lead Propeller, what we do with that is the websites have this content, but we also have these content packs. So you can also additionally purchase some content packs that can be dripped out over several months to keep your site fresh and establish you as that expert. So you don't even have to write all these things. They've been optimized. They're over 1,000 words a piece. Got pictures in them, all this kind of stuff that takes forever to do. And so it's pretty awesome. Anyway, we'll talk more about all of that in that other podcast episode. So the next thing that you can do to build the credibility, believe it or not, is fast loading websites. So if your site loads really slow, believe it or not, that affects how visitors perceive you and your business. And obviously, if they're going on a mobile device and it's taking a long time, they're not going to wait for it. They're going to go back. Same thing on desktop. If it's taking forever, they're just going to go back and go to another site. They're going to go to your competition. So you've got to have a fast loading site. Now, when you get some of these free websites, you're on a shared server. So you're on a server that's also handling all these other all these other people's websites. And, if you've got some intensive stuff being done on those servers, it's going to slow down the loading of your site. So just be aware of that. One thing you can do is get, dedicated server. Of course, that costs, more money. So you have options, but it's gonna cost quite a bit. So, but basically, this whole fast loading website thing. So, according to KISS Metrics, which they do a lot of things about conversions and analytics on websites, and basically it's found that 47% of consumers expect a web page to load in 2 seconds or less. So it's just expected, and 40% of people will abandon a website that takes more than 3 seconds to load. That's a full almost half. That's almost half of the people coming to your website will abandon it if it takes longer than 3 seconds to load it up. And every 1 second delay in a page response can result in 7% reduction in conversions. So time is critical. It's got to load quick. This is something that's not really thought about often, and it's a huge deal. And honestly, Google and other, and Bing, I'm sure too, look at page load speed and consider that, because they want, if they're presenting you as a search result for a search, they want people that click on that to go there and be happy with what they experience. And that part of that is that fast loading website. So if you're not providing a good experience, they don't want to show you as some of the top results because they want to provide a good experience for the search engine users. That's how they stay in business. All right, so fast loading websites. So those were ways that converting people that wouldn't otherwise contact you due to being skeptical or anxious. If you are enjoying all this great information, please leave a rating and review on iTunes for the podcast. It really helps us out a lot, and I do appreciate it. Stay tuned for more awesome info about online lead generation. Take care.